It's great to see so many of you here and good to see some familiar names. So hello to you guys again. And if you're new to one of our trainings, then welcome. We're really glad you're here. So what's going to happen today is we're doing an introduction to JOSM, the Java OpenStreetMap Editor. And the way we have it structured is that you'll see some slides first that Ruth will take us through, and then Sam will then do a live demo of how those slides sort of live in real life, as it were. He'll do a live demo of what Ruth has explained just previously. So we'll be going back and forth between the presentation and the slide presentation rather, and the JOSM software itself. With that, I'm going to put myself on mute and turn off my camera and hand it over to Sam and Ruth for the presentation. Take it away, guys.
Okay, so hi everyone. Me and Sam will be leading this training today. So yeah, welcome. So first, let's go over what is JOSM. JOSM stands for Java OpenStreetMap Editor. It's a desktop editing application for OSM written in JavaScript. It runs on Windows, Mac, OS, and Linux. First, you download data from the server and then edit it offline and then upload it back to the server with validation checks. Even though it is a slightly more intimidating interface than ID Editor, it has a much more efficient editing workflow with great shortcuts, so it's a really good tool to learn. So this is what the interface looks like when you open it up. Again, it might seem a little intimidating, but once we start to explain the tools and give you some demos, hopefully it will be less intimidating. So here is a side-by-side of what mapping a building looks like on ID Editor versus JOSM. As you can see, the JOSM building tool is much more efficient. You only have to map 2 nodes, and then the tool extends from those nodes automatically squared, unlike in ID Editor, where you have to map each node and then square the building. Here are some training guides. We'll send you this presentation, as Professor Hinton said, so you can always come back to these. They're really helpful, and I highly encourage you to check them out after this presentation. So first, let's go over installing JOSM. The first step is to download Java. JOSM runs off of Java, so you'll need to make sure that you have an updated version, specifically Java 8 or higher. The next step is to download and install JOSM. After downloading Java, you can go ahead and download and install the newest version of JOSM. So now let's do a little JOSM walkthrough. This is the first page you'll see when you open JOSM. Again, it works on offline data downloaded by the user. And on this page, you'll see any new updates or new features. The first step in setting up JOSM is to authorize your account. So first you'll have to go to Edit to Preferences, select the connection setting, click Authorize Now, enter your OSM username and password, click Authorize Now again, click Accept Access Token, and then we'll keep the preferences window open because there's more things to set up. This might look a little different on Mac versus Windows. Sam has a Mac, so you'll get to see what that looks like on a Mac. The next step is to set up the remote control. This serves as a link between the OSM server and JOSM. So within the preferences window, you'll select the remote control settings, check Enable Remote Control, click OK, and then again, keep the preferences window open. So the next step that we'll do is downloading plugins. The plugins in JOSM are one of its most powerful features. The 3 plugins that we recommend are the Buildings Tools, Utils Plugin 2, and Mapathoner plugins. So within the preference window, you will select the plugin icon, which is the little blue puzzle piece. You'll search for Buildings first and check the box next to Building Tools. And then search for Utils Plugin 2 and Mapathoner as well, and check the boxes next to those. and then select download list to install all the plugins. So here's a little info on how to navigate JOSM. This is what the interface looks like. There's a large central panel, the black box is the map view, and that's where your geodata is displayed and your editing takes place. On the left, there's the editing toolbar, and then on the top is your main menu where you'll see the plugins that you'll install. And then right below the main menu is the shortcut toolbar where you'll find shortcuts to the tools in the drop-down lists of the main menu. And lastly, to the right, you have your information panels. And this is where you'll see the layers displayed on the map. And you can also see the tags selected objects have. And now we'll get into a demo by Sam.
All right. So I've just pulled up JOSM, and we are going to start by setting this up for everyone. So like Ruth said in the presentation, you could go to the editor menu bar up top and go to preferences, or there's this tool up top that pulls up the preferences menu. And so we're going to start here at the axis. You're going to click authorize now, and you're going to log into your OSM account, and then you're going to click authorize now again, and you'll be set up and all logged in to JOSM. Then we're going to turn on remote control access. That is a little bit down, and it's just like a checkbox, and you can check that on after. And now we're going to select all of the plugins that we're going to want. These are very useful for mapping because they speed up the process a whole lot. So first we're going to look up buildings. If you just look up buildings, it'll select the buildings under school tool. And then you're just going to check that. And then the other two that we recommend are utils plugin. And if you just search utils, it'll pull up and you can check that. And the last one is Mapathon, and just search it up and it will be there. And then you can download the list, and you can also update the plugins when they get updates. All right, and we can go back to the presentation.
Okay, now we'll get into mapping features. So the first step is to download data into JOSM from OSM. One way to do this is to click on File, then Download from OSM. Another option is to simply click the download button, which is this downward facing green arrow. In the download window that opens, you'll select the Slippy Map tab. And with this, you can use your mouse to pan around and then zoom in specifically to the area that you want to map. You'll draw a box around that area that you want to download, and then click download at the bottom of the window. JOSM will get the data from this area from OpenStreetMap and open it in your map window for editing. One thing to keep in mind is that if you select too large of an area, then it might be too much data for JOSM to download. So make sure you are selecting the specific area that you are interested in mapping. Another option is to download the data from OSM directly. You can go to osm.org and then again zoom in to the specific area that you're interested in mapping, and then copy the URL of that area. And then with that URL, you'll go to File, then Open Location, and paste the URL from OSM into that box. So the next step is to set up the imagery that you're going to reference while you're mapping. It might automatically appear if you are working from a tasking manager, or you might need to activate it yourself. In the menu bar, you'll select which imagery you want from the imagery drop-down menu, and then it will appear in your layers panel on the right. So in this picture, you can see there's some yellow hash marks around your area of interest, and these represent the areas that you should not be mapping. So you should not be mapping any area where there's hash marks. Another helpful feature in JOSM are the imagery visibility settings. You can alter them. For example, you can adjust the gamma settings, which will help features pop out of the landscape. And now we'll move on to another demo.
Right. So we're now gonna download data for the next process. I have already chosen a location that I want to do. So I have dragged it, a Slippy map overlay across the area that I want to map.
Sam?
And
Sorry, we can't see city map.
hmm,
We can only see the main so the landing page for JOSM.
can you see it now?
Oh, there it is. Yep, thank you.
So I can start over. So you're gonna start out at a very wide scale, and say you want to select an area of interest. My area of interest is going to be this rural area in Wisconsin. So you can just zoom in into that area, and then you just create an overlay on the map, and that's how much data you want. You can see in the top left corner, it says the download area is okay because the size, but if you make the download area huge, one more, huge, it's going to be download area too large. It's too much data for your computer to handle. So you just want to zoom in and make sure that you're getting a good amount of a reasonable amount of data. And so I can now click this download button, and it will pop up, and it will now pop up the editor that we demonstrated earlier on. It's not showing that at the moment, so let me share that. You can see the editor now, hopefully. Yep.
Yes, yep, we got it.
So we can start with pulling up our imagery. For most projects you're working on, they're going to want a specific type of imagery. But for this demo, I'm just going to use Bing Aerial, and it will pop up and you'll see the imagery. You can go over to the layers side on the left, and you can turn off and on your imagery. You can also have multiple imageries up. So you can check between imagery to see like if there's prior data and you want to see what imagery the other person was using, maybe you can check that by just looking at the data that they put in. Oh, also, you can change the color of your imagery. So you can make it more colorful. You can change the brightness. And you can change that, and you can change the opacity. I typically only use the gamma because it is a lot better to check buildings and deal with shadows. And we can go back to the presentation.
Okay.
Just before we jump back in, I just want to make sure there was a couple of questions or a question in the chat there, and someone asked about needing JOSM and needing Java and whatnot. First, both JOSM and Java are completely free, and you don't need to know Java per se, just need to have a version of Java installed on your computer. The cool thing is that when you launch JOSM, it will look for the Java on your computer, and if it's not the right version or too old a version, it will prompt you to, hey, you need to update Java, and so give you a link for that. Once you update the Java on your computer, which is completely free, go back to JOSM, and it should run smoothly from there. All right, thanks, guys.
Okay, thank you for that demo, Sam. Now we'll move on to JOSM basic operations. So for editing, we can add points, lines, and shapes that represent real-life locations. And then we'll describe these objects using tags by selecting from the presets menu. Again, this image here shows the area that you should not be mapping outside of. You should never be mapping in the hash marked area. So for basic navigation, you'll use the right mouse button to drag the map, the left mouse button to manipulate an element, and then the scroll wheel to zoom in and out. This is much easier if you have a mouse rather than using your trackpad, so we really recommend that you have a mouse. For the basic operations, there are 3 main modes that we use when editing, and they all have keyboard shortcuts. First is select, shortcut S, which is used for selecting elements, viewing and editing their tags, and moving them. And then there's add, A, for adding elements such as standalone nodes, adding new nodes to create a new way, or extend an existing way. And then we have delete, which is control delete for deleting elements. However, it's encouraged to never completely delete an element that another mapper has created. Instead, you can edit that element to fix it, which will preserve the element's history. So the basic elements of JOSM include nodes, ways, and closed ways or areas. Nodes are the dots that are used to mark specific locations for drawing the segments between these locations. Nodes are points in space. Each node has a latitude and a longitude. Ways are an ordered list of nodes displayed as connected by line segments. They're used to describe roads and paths. And closed ways or areas are ways which go in a closed loop and they're used to describe areas such as parks, lakes, or most commonly buildings. Moving on to drawing a node. To draw a standalone node, first you will clear your current selection by pressing selection and then unselect all. Or you can press the escape button on your computer. Then press A to get into adding mode, or you could select the draw nodes tool to begin drawing a node. Then you will press your left mouse button somewhere in the map view window, and then you can press escape or double click to create a standalone node. And then after that, you can return to select mode. Then to draw away, you will press the left mouse click again somewhere in the map view. And if you move your mouse, you'll see that a line segment is connected to that node. If you keep left clicking, you can create several nodes that are connected by segments. To stop, you go back to select mode or press S, or you can press the escape button or again, double click. So to map a road, you'll activate the Draw Nodes tool by selecting A again, and then trace the road from start to finish, and then you'll finish by double-clicking on the final point. Then you will need to add a tag to the road by hitting Alt-A and entering key equals highway. You'll need to check the project instructions, or you can also use the road tagging wiki to decide the value of the road. Most often it will be residential or unclassified. The classification of the road should correspond to its economic or social role and not its condition or visual appearance. And then if you want to edit the tag for a road, you can simply hit Alt-S. I think we skipped the mapping land use slide. There you go. Okay. So for mapping land use, you'll activate the Draw Nodes tool again by selecting A, and then trace the land use outline, and then you can finish the shape by clicking on the original point. Then you will tag this feature by selecting the Add button within the Tags and Memberships window on the right, or again, hitting Alt-A. Residential areas are marked key equals land use and value equals residential. These values are, you can type these values into the tagging fields and then press OK. Tags are used to describe geographic data in OpenStreetMap. Tags are attributes or descriptions that you attach to basic elements, such as nodes, ways, or closed ways and areas. A tag is a key equals value pair. For example, highway equals residential. Highway is the key and residential is the value. A key is a string describing the general classification of a feature. The value gives a more specific information within the class key. Keys and generic values are lowercase and do not include a space. So make sure you just use underscores instead. If you want to use presets when you're tagging, they're a really helpful tool. They are shortcuts used for tagging. You can use a tag by clicking the Add button, and the Add Values window will appear. There you can select a key or value from the drop-down list. The drop-down list contains all the values in the downloaded area and all the known tags or presets. For adding presets, in the presets menu in the main menu bar, you can search for the specific preset you want, which is really helpful. And now we'll move on to another demo.
All right, so we are back to the editor window. For this, we're gonna probably just turn off our imagery because we're just gonna show you a lot of the basic functions. So, oh wait, I'm just gonna turn off all of the imagery on the right, and I will show you all of the tools that we have. So on the left-hand side, these are all the tools. If you want to zoom in, I'm currently using the select tool. You can just select that, or you can use the S shortcut, and it allows you to select nodes, areas, and lines, and you can move them around. Here's me moving around a node. I can select this whole line and move it. I don't want to move it, so I'll just undo the move. And if I had an area, I could also select it and move it and adjust it to make sure that it's accurate. We can also show you how to draw a way. So you're going to select this tool, the Draw Nodes tool. You can also use the A shortcut, and we'll just select, and you just continue and until the way that you want to draw is done. So say that this is the end of the street, you can double click and it will stop, and you can go back to the select. So I'm going to go back to select, and by using the shortcut S, and now I can move all of this. I can also, if say I want to draw another road that's coming off this road, I can select a node, and I can use the draw nodes tool again, and we can do the shortcut A, or you can use this, and it will continue this way and connect it there. Or let's double click, sorry. And that's particularly helpful because if a road already had a tag, you could it will auto-populate the new road with that tag, or the new way. So let's also show. So you can see on the tags and memberships side over here, you can add a tag for this selected way. Let's do that. Can you see the add tags menu that just popped up?
No, we can.
Okay. Uh, share that. It will come up with this. You can see that it auto-populates with the most common for ways or your last used. And like Ruth said in the presentation, they're mostly classified as highway and residential or unclassified, but each country has their own rules and guidelines for mapping out ways and roads. So you would want to look at the wiki. And if I press OK, it will
Now we can see the JOSM. Oh, there you go.
it will now have the tag in the right hand side of the window. And we can go back to the presentation.
Okay, now we're going to move on to JOSM shortcuts and plugins. So for mapping buildings, we'll do this using our buildings tool, which you can activate by selecting B on your keyboard. You'll left click on the corner of a building and keep your mouse button pressed down as you move your pointer along the longest edge of the building and then release it at the corner. Then you can adjust the depth until it fits the building and then left click to finish the shape. The building tool automatically squares and tags your buildings, which is really helpful. So to map buildings that have an extrusion, which a lot of them do, you might have an L, U, or T-shaped building. So first you will draw a rectangle using the building tool along the longest edge of the building. Then you will select X on your keyboard, double click to add a point at the edge of your rectangle where the building extends, and then you can drag that edge to where you want to extend the footprint until it fits. For mapping circular buildings, the building tool has a circle mode. So first you'll get into building mode by hitting B, and then switch your building tool to circle mode by selecting Alt-Z on your keyboard. Then you will trace the diameter of the circular building, and then it will automatically create a perfectly tagged circular building. To switch back to the rectangle building mode, you select Alt-R on your keyboard. So sometimes a building will have a courtyard. So in order to map this building, you need to leave a space in the middle for the courtyard because that's not included in the building footprint. So to do this, you'll draw one side with the rectangular building tool, then select S to select the shape that you just traced, then reselect B to get back into the building tool, and then trace the remaining sides of the buildings. Then you'll need to select them all by hitting S again and shift selecting the overlapping buildings. And then you can join all the buildings by hitting Shift J to merge them. So for fixing buildings, if you see any unsquared buildings, these can be fixed by selecting them and hitting Q. Selected buildings can also be rotated by holding Shift Control, and you can also resize them by holding Control Alt. Buildings can also be disconnected from other features by hitting G with the building selected. And now we'll move on to a demo of this.
All right, so I also realized that I forgot to demonstrate a closed way before passing it back to Ruth the last time, so I can just quickly demonstrate that as well. So we can select the Draw Nodes tool on the left, and we can just create a circular area, and you can double click to close it off, and you can then add a tag of land use, or so whatever you're mapping. It can be residential area, it can be farmland, it can be forestry, or it can also be like waterways. And now I can also demonstrate the buildings tool. So the buildings tool is another tool that shows up on the left-hand side. It has the shortcut of B, and it's a really handy tool because it makes sure that everything is squared while you're mapping, and it also auto-populates the tag membership with building equals yes. So it really speeds up the process compared to the ID and editor. Let's say that this building is L-shaped. We can zoom in, and there's an extrusion that makes it an L shape on this side. We can use the extrude tool, which has the shortcut of X, and we'll so now it's selected with X. We can add, if you double click, it will add a node, and you can just pull this area and it will extrude the building a little bit. Another thing we can show off is how to draw buildings with a courtyard. So I'll demonstrate that quickly. We are going to draw 4 buildings. We're going to select the buildings tool. And make sure that every tool overlaps. And you want to have the initial building selected while you're drawing so that it is parallel and to it. And then one last one here. And then you're going to select all of these buildings that I just made. So you're going to go over to the select tool, or you can select S, and then you're going to shift click all of these. And you can finalize this by doing Shift J, and it will make a building with a courtyard in the middle. And another handy tool that we have is the Q shortcut, which automatically squares buildings. So I'll make this building, but say someone did this without the buildings tool or on ID editor, and they've made it like this. You can select the building with, you can do the shortcut S, or you can use this tool in the top left. You select the building and you can press the Q key and it will square it. And you can and that is how you square a building. And we can go back to the presentation.
Actually, just before you do that, Sam, can you show the rotate and resizing as well?
Sure. Let me do that. Can everyone, it says it's the screen sharing is paused. Can everyone see the?
We can see the presentation.
Oh. Let me get
There
back.
you go. Yeah, we're back.
So you want to hit Command Shift, and it will change the icon to Shift, and you can just rotate it. You might want to make it parallel to this courtyard building, so you can do that. Another good way to making sure that like buildings are parallel, like on city blocks, is you can control this, and or you can control the nodes on this one, and then select this building with the S tool, and you can select, and it will make sure that this building is paralleled with this. And then resizing is this. So Control Alt and hold on. let me select the building first, Control Alt, and you can resize the building like that. Also the glue tool. So say someone had these two buildings together and they're glued together. You can select this node. You can press G, which will unglue this node to that node. Because say if this building wasn't actually connected to the initial building, and these nodes were paired, if you move this, it will alter the building shape, which we would not want. So when we unglue this, we can move it off. And now we can move back. Sorry, we move back to the presentation. Sorry.
Okay, now we'll learn how to launch JOSM from a task if you're in a tasking manager. The first step is to ensure that JOSM is running. Then you will find a project in the tasking manager. At the selection stage, ensure that the editor pop-up menu has JOSM selected. And then you'll do as you usually do, select map a task, map selected task, and it will automatically launch into JOSM. If you want to change your default editor from ID, this can be adjusted from the settings menu, which is accessible when you click on your username. So we'll always remember to upload frequently. It's very important. You should be uploading every 5 to 10 edits. And you can do this by selecting the hard disk icon with the upwards green arrow, which has a shortcut of Control-Shift-Up arrow. And then the upload pop-up will be displayed. Here you can add your change set comments, including your hashtags. And then you'll also make sure that your imagery is labeled, or you can also select the box to automatically obtain it from your map view. And then you'll execute the upload by selecting upload changes or hitting enter on your keyboard. So for saving or uploading to OSM, the upload pop-up will show a list of the objects that you are adding, and it will also show what you are modifying or deleting. In the box at the bottom, you are asked to add a comment describing your work, which is very important to do. For instance, you might put added new roads and features in my neighborhood, and then you will specify the source you used. For instance, Bing, you use Bing imagery and local knowledge. And for your first upload, JOSM will ask you to enter your your OpenStreetMap account details. And then comes the exciting part. If you want to go see your changes, you can open OSM in your internet browser and then move the map to the area that you just edited, and then you should be able to see your changes appearing on the map. If you don't see your changes, don't worry, it might take a few minutes for the changes to show up on the map. And then here is a very helpful graphic. It is all of the keyboard shortcuts for JOSM in a little cheat sheet. I found this graphic incredibly helpful when I first started using JOSM, and I honestly still reference it often. So I really recommend coming back to this graphic to remember all of the keyboard shortcuts. And that is the end of our presentation. If anyone has any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Ruth. Thank you, Sam. Yes, as I just mentioned, if you have any questions on the software or would like to see a demo of another tool in some way, please just put that in the chat. We're happy to do it. As Ruth mentioned, that last slide showing, or second last slide showing all the shortcuts, that's very handy. When people get very used to using JOSM, it's not uncommon for them to have a mouse. So have their one hand on the mouse and the other hand on the keyboard, and just jumping from shortcut to shortcut on the keyboard. So they're changing the tool very quickly. But all these tools that we have, of course, that you have access to are available either through the side menu or from the top menu bar, where we have like changing modes for the tools, or more tools. So there's always a way to find it visually. And then when you get used to the shortcuts, sort of adding those into your sort of repertoire. So it is a really, really, really good tool. So there's a question here. Can you show the demo of setting up the remote control? Yes. Can you do that again, Sam? Showing where to find the remote control under preferences.
All right, 1 second.
Another question as well. When mapping roads, why do you make the nodes short? You mean, well, we'll address that one next. Sam, go ahead and explain where you found the preferences window.
Okay. So where I found the preferences window first, let me share JOSM. There's on the home screen, there's a tool that looks like this, or it's on anything. And you can see, you can just press that. There's also on your menu bar up top, you can go to, on Apple or Mac products, it's there's a settings, and on Windows products, you can do edit and preferences. So to find the remote control, it's gonna look like this on the left-hand side.
We're only seeing JOSM, not the preferences.
Oh, all right. Okay. For the remote control, it's gonna look like this on the left-hand side. It's a lot more cluttered than what the examples show on the slide. They must have added a lot of options, windows, but it's just on this page, you can just click this box and it will set up the remote control. Does that answer your question?
Great. And the other question was, when mapping roads, why do you make the nodes short? I'm not exactly sure what you mean. Do you mean like the space between the nodes, as you're drawing a line? Is that what you mean? If you could clarify the question, I'd appreciate it. In the meantime, if anybody else has a question, please throw it in the chat. We're happy to re-demonstrate or re-explain any of the things we covered today. I realize it was a lot of information today all at once, but again, the slides for this presentation and the recording of this presentation will all be made available to everybody that registered for this webinar. And if you remember at the beginning of or near the beginning of the presentation, we had a page on there with a number of different links. And so there are a lot of resources out there on sort of get you up to speed and help you practice using JOSM. And we sort of highlighted some of those key ones there. So if you're interested in using this tool, which is a very powerful tool, very helpful tool, then we have lots of resources, certainly as far outside, many, many resources beyond, what we covered today. And this hopefully will give you a good introduction into how to use the basic tools and navigate around JOSM. And like any software, the best thing you can do is sit in front of it and start using it. And if you want to, like Sam illustrated here, just go to like a blank area in the world or anywhere and just turn off the imagery and just sort of practice making ways, making closed ways, making buildings, using the building tool, using the extrude tool to manipulate shapes, rotate them, to make them larger, smaller, adding tags, these kinds of things. It's a great way to do that. Just remember to delete all of those data before you try to do any edits to actually upload. We don't want, of course, garbage data going into OSM. But it's a great tool just to play around with, and then go to an area that you like or the area that you're familiar with, and then start mapping. It's a great tool to use. We still have some time, so are there any other questions or anything that people are curious about?
I guess I could answer the road question. So, and in some examples, like say that there's a natural curve or like a curve in the road, smaller spaces between nodes in a road could show that more accurately than like two nodes. But honestly, a road can be as long as you want. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and just to reinforce what you said, Sam, like if the road is straight, we use very few nodes to make it straight. You simply need a beginning node and an end node, and just draw a straight line behind it. But as Sam was just saying, if it's curved or very sinuous, then you want a bunch of nodes, because we do want to reflect the path of the road as accurately as we can. As we're tracing, especially with vector data, we're tracing the sort of the center line of that road. We want to sort of accurately record that as best we can. So more nodes are necessary, but we basically want to add as many nodes as is necessary to accurately reflect the actual path, and but no extra nodes. If that makes sense. Any other questions? These are good questions. These are great questions. It's also great. I mentioned at the beginning, it's also great seeing some familiar names on here. So it's great to see you, quote unquote, see you again. I'm glad you guys are here. And thank you for everybody that sort of typed in where they're sort of calling in from. And by my count, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, at least 9 unique countries on the call right now, which is pretty fantastic. All right. Well, if there are no other questions, then we will bring this webinar to a close. And yes, how do we access the recording? Everybody will be emailed. So once the recording is made available, or once we have access to the recording, you should receive it and the slides from YouthMappers. So probably from the info@youthmappers.org email address, but we will email it to everybody. The recording as well will be posted onto our YouTube channel. So if you don't already subscribe or follow the YouthMappers YouTube channel, by all means, please go ahead and do that. And you'll see not only this recording, but past recordings we've done, but also recordings of a bunch of other things that we've done over the course. Because YouthMappers now is almost 10 years old, if you can believe it. So we have a lot of information up there. So it's all available for anybody to access at any time. All right. And you're very welcome, both. Good to see you on here, man. Hope we see you again before too long. All right, folks. Thank you very much for everything. We appreciate your patience and appreciate your time today. I know for some of you it's very, very late, and we appreciate you guys tuning in. Have a wonderful weekend and happy mapping. Hope to see you guys again soon.